Hi, I'm Manda McKay. I'm a professional artist and I'm making these videos to give you creativity tips that will help regardless of your level of expertise. For this video, I'm going to be talking about going in a different direction or going in the opposite direction. And what I mean by that is whatever project you're working on, oftentimes we start out with just the most obvious and basic way to do something. So what if you did it completely differently or even the opposite of what it is that you're doing right now? And just thinking about this, whether or not you actually use it, is going to be very helpful because it's going to hopefully have you thinking about the project in a different way than you normally would. So whatever is your first instinct or your first idea, you don't have to throw it away, but what if you did something completely different? How would that work out? So I'm going to give you an example of something that I'm working on right now. I'm actually trying to choreograph a short dance, and I do not have a lot of experience with choreography. So I think my tendency is to just go for probably the most basic ideas, and I definitely don't want to do that. So I've had to ask myself, well, what's the opposite of what my first idea was? And so this dance is going to be called, I think, She Crawled Out of the Swamp. Now, if you have a title like that, I think the obvious thing is to make the dance a little bit creepy. And that was kind of the way I came up with this idea in the first place. Something crawling out of the swamp, that could be really creepy. And I had kind of a creepy way of dancing that I was planning to use. And I'm still really in the early stages of the project, so I might still use that. But I started thinking like, okay, well, the obvious thing would be to make this, the dancer, a character that's like a zombie or a vampire or a swamp creature or something. But what if, instead of doing that, what if I made this dance about healing? And I may or may not go with that, with that idea, but to make this dance about crawling out of the swamp to actually be about healing, whether or not that's a basic idea for anybody else, it's definitely kind of the opposite of what my original idea was. So I may or may not use that. I may incorporate some ideas coming from thinking of this dance in a different light. Again, I'm still in the early stages, so I'm not sure yet. But at least I've got some different options to think about what I really want this dance to be saying. And so again, that's just from thinking beyond what my original idea was, and then just what would be a totally different way to do this. And I'll give you another example. My husband has an internet radio station, and a few years ago he made a Halloween special. And he needed to have a host for this Halloween special. He was playing different songs, and the songs were not typical Halloween songs for the most part. There were some really unusual songs that probably a lot of people hadn't even heard before, kind of some deep cuts basically. And he wanted to have a host talking in between playing the songs. And to him, the obvious way to do this would have been to have like a deep, scary voice like "Brrr," that sounds like kind of like a toilet flushing, but I'm sure I don't do it very well because I can't make my voice go that deep. But I'm sure you can imagine just like some kind of scary monster, "Brrr," deep voice. And he decided that he was going to do something completely different. So I'm not sure how he did it. He used some kind of effect. I don't know if it was a pitch transposer or what. But he made it sound like it was a female, not necessarily a female human, but definitely where it was a female voice instead of this dark, scary voice. And so it came out a lot better, I think, than if he had just used something that was a little bit more cliche, especially since, as I said, the songs were not cliche Halloween songs, except for maybe the last song he threw in on my behalf, which was Monster Mash. Can't have Halloween without that song, I'm sorry. But most of the other songs were not obvious ones, and so it made sense to just have a less obvious voice for the host. So I hope you found this video helpful. Again, a major component of creativity is just being able to think in a different way than you normally would. And the easiest way to, or one easy way to do that, as I said, is just kind of ask yourself, well, I've got my first idea. What would be the opposite of this? Or just maybe not even the opposite, something totally different. And that is just going to get your mind used to coming up with different ideas. And the more you do this, the easier it's going to become. Like everything else, creativity takes practice. So tell me in the comments what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're finding these videos helpful. And again, my name is Amanda McKay, and thank you so much for watching.